There's millions of mobility and posture correcting videos on YouTube, but all of them are completely wrong. Even I made one and it's good, but if I had to redo it today, I would make it completely different because one thing I've learned along the way is that stretching is the least important. Also, I feel like I look worse before and after. That sucks. I mean, think about it. Stretching isn't what turned you into the rolled-shouldered, nerd neck, imaginary lat syndrome dickhead that you are today. The way you trained got you here. Good job. I found that the key to increasing thoracic mobility, which will lead to better posture and subsequently lead to more muscle growth, is by programming exercises that increase the range of motion on all your horizontal shoulder adducting muscles, as well as your pec minor, most people neglect that bastard, and overloading the shit out of your horizontal shoulder abducting muscles, your upper back. Who wants a mustache ride? I think a key point to understand is that we're not dealing with adaptive shortening, where you start to lose sarcomeres in series. The muscle actually gets shorter. That's only been shown in animal models or somebody who has had a limb immobilized for a long period of time, like if you were stuck in a cast. The reason you look like Quasimodo is actually due to increased neuromuscular tone and tightened stiffness. That's why the previous video I made was all centered around PNF stretching, because it's been shown to reduce resting neural tone. Neural tone is just the baseline muscle activation maintained by the nervous system. By contracting a muscle at length, it allows you to relax said muscle and stretch even further. And while it works, it takes forever to see any real noticeable changes to your posture. And that makes sense when you look into the research and find that there's very little evidence to support the fact that stretching alone can induce any sort of postural changes. We want the shit to go that way. Now, those studies were done using passive stretching, and PNF stretching doesn't really fall into the category. There's a contraction element, but we're still not targeting the antagonist muscles. It's the equivalent to jerking off with a condom on. Doesn't count. You're still a virgin, just a sad one. On the other hand, if we look at the research around strengthening the weak muscles that are leading to poor posture and mobility, there is a substantial benefit. So we should probably... The big aha moment for me was when I realized that we need to take strengthening those weak antagonist muscles to the extreme. It's the only way we're going to counteract that shit posture you have throughout the rest of your day. First, we need to identify the problem areas. Now, we probably don't have to go too in-depth on this because I'm assuming you could guess what muscles are causing the problem. But there is a study that compared the shoulder range of motion and strength in bodybuilders compared to non-bodybuilders and found that bodybuilders had a stronger mid-trapezius by only 1.2% and lower trapezius by 1%. Oh my God. It's a pretty good indication that most people are piss poor at targeting those regions of the trap. Other studies have also found a similar strength discrepancy between horizontal adduction and abduction in powerlifters. And the no shit part of this is they were training the adducting muscles 2.5 times as much. So that caused that. And I don't know about you, but I took a look at my back training and realized I was hitting my lats with several different exercises from different angles and really only had one major upper back movement, and that's just not gonna cut it. So I have since changed a lot. Cool story, bro, but how do I fix my horrible posture and shit thoracic mobility? Step one, every chest day should have one exercise that is dedicated to biasing, which is not 100% possible, but attempting to bias the pectoralis minor. This is important for several reasons. One being that a tight pectoralis minor has been linked to decreased posterior tipping of the scapula, which leads to less subacromial space, and eventually one of those rotator cuff muscles are gonna scrape the top of the acromion like a stripper leaving a shit stain on your shirt. But she had a great personality. As well as being linked to internal rotation, which is exactly what we're trying to fix. Recently, I've seen a lot of people doing this variation of dumbbell flies, where you start with the traditional form, and as you get into the stretch, you go into external rotation, which actually makes sense in terms of putting that pectoralis minor at length, because they've looked at the best way to stretch your pectoralis minor, and wouldn't you believe it, it's the stupid doorway stretch. So this position actually perfectly mimics that, but when you look at the line of action of the muscle, we should actually be contracting down at this angle. That's why I prefer the cable variation of these. It's a little less Mr. Potato Head, my shoulder's gonna dislocate and fall on the floor, and more in line with how the muscle actually contracts. And remember, this isn't a muscle we're trying to overload. It's one that's obviously weaker, but we're trying to take it through greater and greater ranges of motion, so I'll do sets of 15, sometimes 20, but usually 15. Step 2, which actually is way more fun than step 1. Step 1's kind of a pain in the dick. Increase the range of motion on every single pressing movement you do. The way I do it is by using a cut-up foam pad like this on every single pressing movement I do. The idea being that it allows you to more easily retract your scaps around the pad, allowing you to go into a deeper stretch and having a greater range of motion. Now, a lot of you aren't even at this step because your typical press goes down and stops at 90 degrees. So I would start out by getting that bar down to your chest. Once you're able to comfortably get that bar down to your chest, then I would work your way to dumbbells and slowly increase the stretch here. But I will say, even if you're somebody whose range of motion is just god-awful and you feel like you don't need this thing, I still would probably use it. It actually frees up your scapulae and helps you pinch those shoulder blades together as you go into a deep stretch and prevents any fuckery from your shoulder, like it tipping forward. I use this thing so much, I'm trying to get the people that make the ab mat that you've seen, I'm sure you've seen. Because this thing, it's just a dumb foam pad. Preferably, it would be in the shape of half of a foam roller, the exact width of this bench, and have the strap technology of this thing. If they can, I'll make a couple extra to sell if anybody wants to buy them. And even if you don't, I don't give a shit. I'll give them to the homeless and they can use them as really shitty pillows. Step 3, the most important part, which most people don't do, increase the volume and intensity you train those weak-ass muscles that have slowly turned you into a Ninja Turtle, the rhomboids, mid-traps, and low traps. What this looks like for me is that the first 2 exercises on my back day are high elbow row variations. I do heavy sets of 6, and since the rhomboids and mid-traps don't really give a shit about the rowing part of the movement, after I'm done with those sets, I increase the weight and go right into shrugs. And while face pulls are neat, I don't think they're an effective strategy to fix the dysfunction we've got ourselves into. In my opinion, the only way to do it is with progressive overload. It'll help fix that strength discrepancy between the horizontal shoulder adductors and abductors. So when it comes to lower traps, even when I'm doing a lat focused movement like V-bar pull downs, once I'm done with these working sets, I increase the weight and then go right into a reverse shrug. Here's a recap of the changes that I've made in my training to help increase thoracic mobility as well as improve posture, and it really is that simple. It's not mobility work, it's not yoga, it's fixing the way you train. No way. And I'm currently working on a program that perfectly pairs training for strength and hypertrophy, and it will be glorious. So look out for that. In the meantime, if you haven't bought the most recent upper-lower split, there's a full gym and a garage, you should buy it. The increase of frequency and volume, you will grow.